That's a life of a fisherman you wouldn't understand. Something you can't feel on dry land. You gotta get your arms way up in a cage and set the hook on smallmouth bass, and then you'll understand. You gotta get your hands on a Shimano reel and a G-Loom that's trying to bet you like what you feel. Step on a deck, give it the world. Hello, welcome to my world.
What's going on you Facebook Live, YouTube Live fishing freaks? What's going on?
What up?
House. What's up, buddy?
That was quick.
That's right. Yeah, welcome back to another episode of On Another Line, live every Tuesday. Well, mostly Tuesdays. We are talking spinnerbaits again. We talked about buzzbaits and spinnerbaits last week, about fall fishing, and a little bit about some things that I had coming up. And this week, JR and I are headed down to the Dale Holler Lake, and we're hoping to try to catch some fish that are not scoping. We don't want to go scoping, but sometimes we have to talk about scoping, and this is the way it is. Talked to a couple of my buddies that fish down there all the time, and they both said that if you're not scoping, you're just hoping this time of year down at Dale Hollow, and that's kind of the way I figured it's going to be. But we're going to go down and swing for the fences with very little practice at Dale Hollow.
Yeah. Well, when you work, it's kind of hard.
Yeah, that's the deal about tournament fishing, man. Work kind of gets in the way.
Dadgummit.
Yeah.
Can't fish all the time because I got to work and pay for fishing.
That's right. So, Casting for Kids Classic. I'll be the first to tell you, JR and I did not qualify for it. We didn't even come close to qualifying for it. This year we had 3 fish, I think. Probably should have had some more, depending on, we just didn't fish clean, didn't fish the areas that we should have. And the week before that, I went out to try to find some fish in my boat and spun a prop hub, so we couldn't get back to where I wanted to go. Ended up fishing pretty much on the trolling motor all the way back from like from like Little Blaine in Yatesville all the way back to the main marina on the trolling motor, basically, or idling. So kind of is what it is, but we did not qualify. But due to the hurricane and everybody's busy lives and all that stuff, and I would like to say, first and foremost, if you guys are watching this out there in a hurricane-affected area, obviously there's not a whole lot that I can do. But if you need something that you think that I can help you out with, let me know. I will definitely help you out. I'm thinking about you all down there in North Carolina and Florida, who is about to get absolutely wiped off the planet, it seems like. I mean, I was looking yesterday. Hopefully it comes down from where it was. They're talking about 200-plus mile-an-hour winds in Florida tomorrow, and that is absolutely crazy. 200 miles.
I can't handle 30 miles per hour.
It's like 180 mile an hour sustained winds with 200 mile an hour gusts.
Yeah,
and the eye of the hurricane is only like 4 miles wide. It's supposed to be like the 4th biggest hurricane that's ever hit Florida ever, and the biggest one that's hit there in like 100 years. So it's crazy. But due to the fact that folks are not traveling or can't get there, maybe have something going on with, with not destruction or anything like that, they opened up the Casting for Kids Classic to anybody that had fished any of the tournaments, the Tennessee or the Kentucky tournament. And as luck would have it, Jared and I did fish. We caught some fish. We didn't weigh those fish because we didn't have a chance to even get close to like the top. I think it was the top 20 that fishes the second day at the Casting for Kids in Yatesville. But it's always a great tournament, and it is for a great cause. So I'm looking forward to getting down there and chunking a spinnerbait, which is what we're going to be talking about in just a few minutes. Jared, what do you think?
Yeah, Chris called me, and he was like, I've gone way down the line, and now I'm to you. I was like, thanks, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, we blanked. We didn't weigh any fish. We could have been like halfway up there anyway, but we weighed.
I remember going up there and we had, I don't know, something really low, and the first top of whatever were like 18 pounds or something. So we were just like, we're not going to stay here for hours for that.
Yep. So no, we dumped them back and lived to fight another day, which was good for us. But long story short, we are going down to Dale Hollow this weekend, staying at Starpoint Marina, and we have a slip down there. I have to work until Friday at 3:00, so I will be fishing zero as far as pre-fishing. We're gonna get down there maybe Thursday and Friday. If you guys are fishing the Caster Classic, don't quote me on this. You might want to look online, but I'm pretty sure it says that you have to be off water on Friday by 4:00.
4
Just to make sure you don't get DQ'd. I'd hate for you guys to see you pay that kind of cash to fish a tournament, drive all the way to Dale Hollow, and not get the opportunity to fish it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been it's been something fun. It's a fall tournament down there at Dale Hollow, which I have a love-hate relationship with Dale Hollow. I feel like that unless you're running something like this right here.
Mm-hmm.
This Garmin, you're kind of slacking it up, but we're gonna go find out and hope that's not the truth.
Yeah, I need to get my my card from my GoPro from you. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I went to turn it on the other day, and it said put in card. And I was like, oh crap, I forgot about this.
Yep, I got it. So I'll bring it, but yeah, so you have those Humminbirds now. So I have I don't know if I have a card that has Dale Hollow on it or not.
I have the Southern one, so it should have it on it. I would think.
Yeah, if you have the Southern States card. Yeah, Corey, it's going to be a fun one, man. It's Dale Hollow. Like I said, I have a love-hate relationship with it. I love the lake. It's really cool, really deep. You have the chance to catch some absolute hammer smallmouth. Smallmouth
all time.
Yeah, smallmouth are not going to win this tournament due to the fact of you can only keep two, and they have to be over like 22 inches long. So they are absolute hammers if you catch them. If you catch two of them, that's great. Let's see here. Got our 2 day this weekend, probably the High River day 1 and Southern Ohio Lake day 2. Penny for your thoughts. I will tell you, the river right now is on fire.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about it. My buddy Worm Leap, who's probably on here, him and his partner won the river rat this past weekend. Had like 22 pounds in 2 days. That's pretty good. It's a pretty solid limit. Had 13 pounds, I guess, the first day, somewhere in there. 9 the second day. Chris Malone from Malone's Marine had a big bag one day. It took big bags, man. Like 4.5 pounder was a big bass. I can tell you now that the river rat's over. I caught so this is a good story, but not so good story. I thought the river rat was this weekend, like this weekend coming up, not the one that just passed. So I made some plaques for the big bass for the river rat tournament. Those of you guys may know, but Mike Drummond, who is my buddy Kyle's uncle that passed away a couple years ago, he was the originator of the river rat, and he put on the river rat forever. Like, it was a huge tournament, invitational only. Now they've opened it up to where it's an open, but he used to send out like hand signed invitations. It was a big deal. I had about 50 boats every year. It was a really good time. Anyway, I made these plaques and I gave them to Dan Mullins, who is I think is the president of the Bass Club, but he also owns I think it's Southern Ohio Rod and Reel Repair or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but anyway, great guy. So I meet him on Friday, and I handed him that stuff. He's like, I can't believe you're not fishing. I was like, yeah, it just kind of is what it is. I said, I just now got my boat back. Haven't spent a lot of time on the river. I said, but, do I still have time to enter? And he said, well, we cut it off last night, which was last Friday. Well, duh. No wonder they cut it off because the freaking tournament was the next day. I just thought it was a week later. He probably thought I was an idiot. Of course, no, I thought it was. I thought it was today, this weekend. But anywho, I went out on Friday after I gave him those plaques. I met him in Coalgrove, and I went directly home and got my boat. Misty and I went to the river, and we just hit some random spots that I would have hit on any other day. There's been a lot of water and current going through Ohio River right now due to the that Hurricane Helene or that just wrecked North Carolina in that area. But it dumped so much rain in this area in a couple days that it had a ton of flow and current going through the river. So I think that causes the fish to eat a lot better. But we ended up catching like 12 or 13 bass. I caught most of them on a spinnerbait, which we're going to talk about in just a second. It wasn't this exact spinnerbait, but it was something similar to this. The reason I have this one right here is that I have this Colorado blade right here wrong. It's backwards, so I have to fix that. But on a spinnerbait similar to this, I was throwing a white and chartreuse skirt here without the tails, willow leaf, and a Colorado. And again, just make sure your Colorado is the right way because this one is not. Quarter ounce. I caught a lot of fish on that. Misty caught a bunch of fish on a chick magnet. And it was like Misty throws like different colors than everybody throws. She throws what I'm going to call female colors. The chick magnet was like blue and pink. And she caught, matter of fact, the biggest bass I think we had was a largemouth she caught on it. Found the biggest and best fish and most fish stacked around timber that were around log jams and stuff. You can find that depending on what part of the river you're at. Spinnerbait, crankbait around that area right there. There's a ton of bait fish in the river right now, so that should help you out. Southern Ohio Lake, depending on where that's at, I would imagine the same deal. Spinnerbait, top water, something like a spook, spinnerbait, or a buzzbait. I would throw maybe this time of year. You could also get by with throwing a weightless fluke or a floating worm, something like that would be all right too.
Yeah.
Yep, Dan Mullins. He is the president of the bass club that I was talking about there, River Valley Bass Club. So anyway, now we're talking about spinnerbaits. And I think one of the biggest things about spinnerbaits is that I had a hard time understanding about spinnerbaits is these blades right here. What are they? How to determine which ones are which? When should you throw what? Do beads matter? Does something like this right here matter? Which you guys are probably tough to see here due to the lighting, but I put a little piece of plastic here to keep this Colorado away from my willow leaf blade. Now, normally this is done with beads. Greg Drown made some of the best spinnerbaits on the planet, and I still think that they're some of the best. But there are a lot of people kind of know this, but don't know this. He kind of like gave me all the secrets of his spinnerbaits before he shut the tackle box down. And I'm sure if you look at the head of this spinnerbait, you will determine that it is almost identical to Greg's. I've got a little bit to work out, but that's going to happen soon. I do have the same wire and stuff that he had on here before. Painting them with the same paint that he had. And when I mean the same paint he had, he gave me a whole gallon of paint that he used to paint his spinnerbaits with. So it's like the paint. So coming out here, with that being said, one of the biggest things I had a hard time understanding with is why are there so many blades? When should you throw them, etc. So if we dive into this really quickly, I'm not going to spend a million minutes on this thing tonight because I think the spinnerbait is probably one of the most well-known baits. But going forward, maybe there's some folks out there that kind of have that beginner mentality here. Let's see here. Belpre to Port. We could be anywhere from Belpre to Portsmouth. I'm guessing Deer Creek for the lake. Paint is empty. Definitely will have a couple spinnerbaits on. Oh, man. Anywhere from Belpre to Portsmouth. That's a long stretch, man. I still would throw a spinnerbait. I wouldn't care where you're at on the river, but Belpre is pretty good. Spinnerbait. If you're on the green at Pool, we definitely throw a spinnerbait, crankbait, something like that. Deer Creek, biggest bass I've ever caught out of Deer Creek was about right at 5 pounds, and it was on a lipless crankbait, but that was in the springtime. So no, I'm lying to you. It was fall because I was just taking in my garden for the year, and the reason that I know that is that it was a 2-day tournament, and the very first day we get there on Saturday, I never caught a fish, not one, not even a single fish. Kyle caught like 30 bass, and then the second day I caught a 5-pounder. And the only thing that I could figure it was, man, and this is probably me being way over the top, like thinking over this. I was taking in and canning really hot habanero and jalapeno peppers the day before. And I wasn't wearing gloves or anything like that. The only thing I could figure is that oil got on my hands and was on my hands till the next day, and the fish could sense that because I was throwing the exact same baits Kyle was, practically with the same rods in the same areas, and I never caught a single fish. Not a bluegill, not a crappie, not a bass. Kyle caught like 30.
Put them minnows on, son.
Let's see. I was going to share my screen here, and I got sidetracked. Maybe. There we go. All right. Number one, my most favorite spinnerbait blade on the planet is going to be a willow leaf. It's a little thinner and longer than most blades. However, over the last couple months of trying to dive into building the best spinnerbait possible, looking at the Greg Drown school of spinnerbait things, I have dove into spinnerbaits way farther than I ever want to, but I've learned a lot about spinnerbaits. And this willow leaf blade that you see right here, they're not all made the same. And what I mean by that, obviously some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller. There is a wide willow leaf blade I'm going to show you in just a second, but there is actually a difference in the cup or the amount of, I guess, concavity, if you will, how much it is concaved. There's actually a slow spinning willow leaf and a fast willow leaf. Now, a slow willow leaf will be a lot flatter than a fast spinning willow leaf. It has a lot of cup in it. It's going to be a faster spinning willow leaf. Now, again, with that being said, there are a couple different types here. You can see here. This is one of my favorite blades or baits here on the planet. Again, you're going to have a willow leaf, and it's going to be accompanied by some sort of a Colorado blade. Now, I'm not a huge fan of gold blades on spinnerbaits, and I would say 70% of the people on this show, or 70% of the people that I've talked to, won't fish anything but a gold willow leaf blade on a spinnerbait. Now, do I think it catches fish? Absolutely. But I have way more confidence in a willow leaf that is silver. And not only silver, I like one that is hammered, and I'll show you a hammered blade in just a second. That's going to be a Colorado. But you have a Colorado blade there in the center, or in between that. And notice that there is a spinnerbait in its, I guess, most simplistic form is nothing more than a piece of wire that has a ball bearing swivel on it with some type of spinnerbait or spinner blade, and some beads and a clevis and another blade or more than one blade. And then you're going to have the lead head, and then you're going to have a hook. Some of them have bait keepers on them. Not all are made the same. A lot of them are different. If you find ones that have bait keepers and things, are usually more expensive. A good spinnerbait anymore is going to cost you $6 to even 10, 12, 13, 14 bucks to get into that Jackal realm. Or there's some huge, really good ones like War Eagle makes some really good stuff. Berkeley makes good spinnerbaits. I'm partial to Greg's spinnerbaits. That's why I'm trying to build these the same way. And here is the blade I was talking about initially. This is a wide willow leaf blade. This actually spins a little slower. It's kind of like a mid-range between a willow leaf and an Indiana, which I'll show you in just a second. It does spin a little bit faster than an Indiana, but slower than a standard willow leaf blade. This is actually going to move probably some of the most water that you're going to have in a spinnerbait. Other than a big giant Colorado leaf or Colorado blade, this is going to move a ton of water. Now, these things aren't really big. You can get giant ones, but these things aren't absolutely ginormous. They're fairly, about half the size of a normal willow leaf. Again, come in a lot of different colors. You're going to see mostly in all these blades, you're going to see mostly silver. Then you're going to see some gold, and then sometimes you'll see copper blades, which is literally made out of copper or copper plated, depends on how much you want to spend on them. And then last but not least, you have collared or painted blades, which I use all the time when it comes to walleye fishing and things like that. I throw a lot of collared blades, but this is that wide willow leaf that I was talking about earlier. And this is going to be the beta I was just showing you here with see if I can get a little closer here. Apparently I cannot. Hey, there we go. You can see here, wide willow leaf blade is not much bigger than that Colorado in the front. But again, as you can see here, there's literally not much to a spinnerbait. How these things are made, you put them in a mold, normally a do-it mold, or maybe it's a custom mold or whatever. You actually crimp the hook to a piece of wire, and you dump some lead into a mold, and you have, presto changeo, you have a spinnerbait. Now, not all hooks are made the same. Not all bodies are made the same. Not all molds are made the same. Not all wires made the same. This is where all the, the intricacies can become as far as making custom spinnerbaits. And as you can see here, you have that ball bearing swivel up here, and then you're going to have a clevis which holds the forward blade. You could have multiple clevises up through here. A lot of times you'll see like 3 or 4 willow leaf blades on the same spinnerbait, which I like to call like a bait ball spinnerbait. It looks like a lot of shad or a lot of threadfin minnows moving in the same ball of bait, which is basically what you're trying to incorporate or trying to mimic here. Now, again, if you look at this spinnerbait compared to the other one we just looked at, this one right here has a bead on top, clevis, and it has a piece of metal tubing similar to what I've put on mine, but mine's plastic. Plastic is way cheaper than metal. And then at the end of it, you're literally taking nothing more than a round bend set of pliers and bending an end on this spring wire. And that's literally holding that spinnerbait blade on there. Now, there are times where you lose these blades due to the fact that this, the wire kind of gets flimsy and kind of just falls off. The more you fish with these things, the better they're going to get, but they also get more flimsy, and sometimes they break, especially if you're absolutely wearing fish out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The thinner the wire, the more play. Like Picasso's Invisix, really, really thin, lots of play, lots of movement, which is a good thing, but, sometimes they don't last as long.
Yeah, I think those are titanium, right?
I think so. I think they call it Invisix is their branding.
So this is an Indiana. The gold blade that you see here is an Indiana blade. In front of that is a Colorado blade. I like to say that the Colorado blade and the Indiana blade are from the same family. They're just the Indiana blade's just kind of elongated. You're going to have more water movement here. And again, let's face it, guys, these things are going to be handy for, the way fish hunt. If you think about how they hunt, they're going to hunt with multiple things. One of them is going to be their eyesight. They are opportunistic feeders. If they see something that they like that they're going to eat, they can eat it. Well, sometimes they're not around things or they can't see things. They're only looking in one direction. They then have their lateral line, which is basically like an organ that picks up movement in the water and it picks up vibration. So that's why these baits are so crazy good, especially in the fall when you have shad spawn and things. But these things move so much water that the fish have to actually look at them. There's no doubt that they're going to see these things because they're going to feel them, they're going to see them. And again, the blade and a blade type and a blade collar definitely depends on water clarity. Now, if I have a really, really gin clear lake and I'm throwing a spinnerbait, I'm probably going to be throwing a really small willow leaf blade with a really small Colorado, or another one of my favorite ones is a willow leaf with a really smaller willow leaf, and I'll show you guys one of those in just a second, in line or in front of that, because it makes less water move, which makes more, it's the same amount of vibration, but it's not as thumpy if you get it. If you get what I'm talking about. It's just a real subtle vibration, kind of like a lipless crankbait compared to a big like 6XD or something. Here's a couple Indianas. You can, that's the deal about spinnerbaits, guys. These things are legit. They are like the 12 cup holders in a vehicle that you're trying to get. You can find a vehicle that has 15 cup holders, and if you need 15 cup holders, but you can find a spinnerbait that has all the blades and all the things that you need in it. Now, what do you need in it? I like simple, keep it simple, stupid, or keep it stupid, simple, the KISS method. I was talking to my buddy yesterday when I posted this spinnerbait online saying that I was making these things now. He said no trailer, ? And I will be the first one to tell you, the only thing you're going to see on any of my spinnerbaits is going to be something like this. This is something I'm trying new. These tails, which are longer. This is actually a Z-Man skirt, but it has these tails here. I mean, the hook stops right here. This is where the bend of the hook is. And then you have this whole tail here, which is kind of like a trailer, but I never throw a trailer on my spinnerbaits. I know a lot of people do. I talked about it last week. One guy on here actually said that he threw a big single tail grub on the back of there, and that's been standard for a long time. I do throw like a 2-aught or 1-aught Gamakatsu straight shank spinnerbait trailer hook on 100% of my spinnerbaits. If I'm throwing a spinnerbait, you can bet that I have a trailer hook on it, but I don't throw any kind of trailers on my spinnerbaits. And I know a lot of people do. It's just kind of what makes you feel the best. Collars.
Throw a grub on them. I like a double tail grub is what I always throw, and it's similar to the skirt that you have there, honestly. And typically, I feel like when I've had the most luck, I've not had a trailer hook on. So I think it's just kind of what you've had success with in the past.
Yeah, I would say that 90% of the fish I catch on a spinnerbait is hooked with that trailer hook.
Mm-hmm.
Now that could be coincidence, but if you're not running a trailer hook and a fish short strikes it, you're guaranteed not to catch it. However, throwing that trailer hook is not going to hurt the way that it runs or moves, so it's just an added benefit for me. So I always throw it. Body collar versus skirt collar, but is obviously something that you can dial into whatever you're looking for. I wouldn't be throwing this thing unless it was like pure mud. Like if you could walk across the water without getting your feet wet, this is probably a pretty good option. A big old giant Colorado blade. This thing is going to be like an icky thump. This thing is going to come through the water and sound like a 1990s model Cavalier with 15-inch solar barracks in the back of it, rattling everything that's in that car. I'm talking about bolts flying out everywhere. This thing is going to move some water. This thing is one of the craziest spinnerbaits out there on the planet. You can fish this thing super, super, super slow because it has a lot of drag in the water due to that big old giant Colorado blade.
That's the big thing to me is if I want to fish really slow and the water's dirty, I'm going to fish Colorado. If I'm fishing clearer stuff and I don't want a lot of lift, I'm going to fish double willow. And for me, 90% of the time, I'm fishing double willow.
Yeah. So I am, again, partial to the willow and the Colorado blade. It's just what I've had success on. Here on the screen, this is a hammered blade, hammered nickel, or it could be chrome, depending on what's going on here. But this is a hammered blade. And I just think it gives it a little bit more of ways to deflect and diffuse light to kind of confuse fish to think that this is more than one bait fish that's going to be in the water. Now, do I have scientific research that says that? No, I don't. But I do think that my favorite spinnerbait on the planet is a hammered nickel willow leaf with a hammered nickel Colorado 1/4 ounce white and chartreuse. That's going to be my go-to usually when there's a lot of different things going on. But that is going to do it for the blades that I have this evening.
Lots of blades, lots of preferences.
What's up, Micah?
Slow rolling it. 1/2 ounce is my favorite too, Micah. half ounce double willow. That's what I'm always doing. I like the. I haven't tried the Blue Rock one, but I do like this. The Screaming War Eagle one's my favorite of the War Eagle ones. The Screaming Eagle is a little bit thinner.
Yeah. No, so fishing has been decent, man. I mean, like I said, I took Misty out this weekend on the river, caught some fish, pretty good deal. Wasn't crazy by any means, but it was for the river. I think we caught, like I said, 12 or 13 fish. Headed to Del Hollow this weekend to do a little jaw jacking down there. Hopefully. Willow, Colorado, Blue Rock spinnerbait, and kicker collar. Man, I tell you what, Jesse makes some great baits. We were throwing, and I still do throw the 1099 jig, throw it a little bit, and then throwing the I'm having a brain fart, Jared. What is it? Triple threat. The triple threat jig is one of my favorites too. But like I said, I'm just trying to. I'm interested in trying this spinnerbait right here combo out. And again, it's just a Willow Colorado, except this Colorado is backwards. I'm using this little clear piece of plastic here to not need so many beads. Beads are fairly expensive if you buy metal beads. I'm just interested to see how long that piece of plastic lasts. You got to figure that, I mean, it's going to be lubricated because there's going to be water in there, obviously. But, I mean, do you have a spinnerbait that lasts long enough where you wear that thing out, you think? Probably not, but I like
the ones that I like have the plastic, and I've never had an issue with the plastic. I've had it get really bent before, the plastic's ever worn out.
I just like that longer tail right there. Like I said, just gives a little bit more profile, kind of like its own trailer. This is kind of like a bass or like a shad, blue and white with white tails. Pretty interested to see what's going on with it. First and foremost, just really quick, I'd like to give out a shout out to some of the folks that make it possible for us to sit here and talk fishing with you guys. And that is going to be Malone's Marine and Border Sporting Goods over in Ashley, Kentucky. Malone's is in Ironton. Picasso Lures, go check them out. We were just talking about some of their spinnerbaits. They're amazing. Columbia's been on my, they've had my back for a really long time. I like Columbia gear. It is expensive. It's not like Sitka gear, but it's still fairly expensive. I wear a lot of their stuff. I like the fact that Columbia refreshes their inventory all the time. That's good and bad. Like, I've found a pair of shorts that I absolutely love. I got like 6 pair of them, and now they're discontinued. They consistently change over their catalog, which I think is why they are a good brand. And then last but not least, Solar Bat. Those people will help us out and keep us going and doing things. Interested in going down and absolutely wrecking some bass at Del Hollow. Hopefully we're not having to use the Garmin's. But I mean, I guess we will if we have to.
That's exactly what I use as well, that Zoom split tail. And it looks similar to that too.
I think it's going to be good. And again, not all hooks are created equal. Most of these home built manufacturers of spinnerbaits use a Mustad hook. And I love Mustad hooks. I really do. But it seems like the one they use is almost like a saltwater hook. It's just really chrome plated and stuff. This is a VMC hook here. And I called Greg and I was kind of like, I was like, how do you dip these things without getting paint on the hook? Well, first off, it's almost impossible. But he was like, I don't care to have paint on the hook as long as it's not on the barb. And I started looking through the spinnerbaits that I have of his, and every spinnerbait that I have, and I never really noticed it because it's underneath the skirt, has a little bit of paint on the blade. As long as it's not on the hook point. But these VMC hooks right here, and I know this is like the term that everybody wants to use anymore, but this thing is sticky sharp. You can see that like I'm holding my hand at an angle here, and it's still not coming off of my hand. It finally fell off, but it's super sharp. I really like these VMC hooks. I like the bend of them a little better. I feel like that those Mustad hooks kind of fold back in towards the body a little bit. So I'm hoping, like I said, I hope I give a bass a few lip piercings with this thing this weekend. I'm definitely going to try it out, see what happens.
Yeah, that's one thing why Rapala baits are so good is because their hooks are so great. All those VMC hooks.
Yep, hooks are the thing. I mean, I really don't know if there's a bad hook anymore. I think they're all made, kind of the similar way. So just I don't know. I like some hooks in certain areas. Like I bought some Mustad hooks for a Ned rig mold that I have from Do It, and I was not happy with those things. They were just not sharp straight out of the box. And of course, me being the gung ho guy that I am, I bought 1,000 of them because I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go in big time and I'm going to buy all these hooks, and I'll never have to buy another set of hooks. I can just go pour some Neds whenever I want them. And a lot of times I was throwing them at places like Lake St. Clair and places like that. So it wasn't like I was losing a ton of them anyway, but my buddies come and grab some here and there. So I was like, I bought 1,000 of them. Get them out of the package, and they are like they are. When I pour Ned rigs with them, I actually take a file and file the hook sharpener or sharper before I will use them. They are that dull. I'm not a fan of them. But I'm sure that's probably just one batch or a wrong different type of hook, or I mean, they weren't like super, like these VMC hooks right here are pretty daggone expensive. They're they're like almost $1 a piece. They're like 60 cents a piece. Which, what the craziest thing about building spinnerbaits is? This ball bearing swivel right here is over half of the cost of this spinnerbait. This one ball bearing swivel right here is $2, which is crazy. Like Sampo is what I'm using. Spro makes a really good one. There's a lot of different ones out there. But I do think quality components make a quality spinnerbait. And hopefully, once I start getting these things cranked out, guys, I will, if I can make something that's similar to Greg Drown spinnerbait, I will have them for sale. They're going to be roughly the same cost as he had them in his store, about $6 a piece. He had them for $5.99. I'm just going to round them up to the $6 and call it a day.
I think a lot of people will buy them. That's something that a lot of people miss. Their buzz baits and their spinner baits.
Yep, and going forward, this is kind of hush-hush. So I posted a picture of this spinnerbait last night, and I woke up this morning. I get up at 5:15 in the morning. I get up at 5:15 in the morning, getting ready to get in the shower, checking my phone, while my shower is heating up. And I look at my Facebook messages, and I had 7 messages last night, not just 1 or 2. I had 7 messages last night. They didn't give a crap about my spinnerbait. They wanted to know if I could make the little squeak buzzbait. And that's the way it is. So I guess the answer to that is I'm working on it. It's all good. Guys, we're about that 40-minute mark. If you guys want to ask any more questions down there, let us know. Yeah, I'm not kidding you, man. I had 7 messages last night from other people. Like one guy didn't even know. Hey, man, do you even know how to make that little river spinnerbait that Greg Drown made? Maybe. But so first and foremost, I mentioned this last week. I am making these spinnerbaits now. They will be available for sale as soon as I test them out to make sure they run just like Greg's. I think they will. But I am going to be the first to tell you now, if Greg Drown ever comes out of the woodwork selling buzz baits and spinnerbaits, my shop is closed. I'm going to obviously not cut his throat because these are his baits. He was kind enough to tell me, kind of like pass the torch, give me some information on what he used. And we've had conversations like, Greg, you ever going to build these things? I mean, let's face it, 7 people messaged me last night about buzz baits. If there's 7 people that message me and I'm this big compared to Greg Drown as far as making those things, there's still a market for him. So if he ever comes out of the woodwork and says, hey, I'm going to set up at a flea market or I'm going to sell them out of my garage or whatever, he's going to be the dude to get them from. I'm going to, I'll still make them for myself. But they may be crap, man. I'm like, they look good, but they may be just absolute horse water. So I'm hoping that they produce. I'm hoping they produce down in Dale Hollow this weekend. But I mean, look at that thing. Would you just look at it? Well, his tails are got to be. What's up, Brandon? Yeah, sweet, man. Yeah, you can't post pictures on the live. I wish you could. That would be an awesome feature. But yeah, that's cool, man. If you had 18 at Sunday at Yatesville, that's awesome. I think I saw that Jacob Likens and let's see, did he fish with who was it? It was Jimmy Boone, I believe. Yeah, Jimmy and Jacob Likens. They had like 17 something the other day. Won the tournament or 2 tournaments actually. A pretty good day. They had some pretty good bass. I think they had big bass like 5 pounds or so. Pretty good deal. But yeah, it's spinner baits are one of my favorite deals, and right now is the time to be throwing them. It really doesn't matter what kind of blade you're throwing, but I would definitely look into that single or double willow leaf blade. They make them that have 3 or 4 of them on there, guys. It just depends on how much you want vibration in the water. If you have big ball bait or big bait balls in your lake and your river, throw those that have 3 or 4 or 5 blades on them. Like, I feel like they would get bit. I caught one of the biggest smallmouth I've ever caught in my life on a spinner bait that had 4 willow leaves on it. Had a number 5 and then a number 4 and then like probably a 2 and a 1.5 or something. But that was, they do work. I can tell you that, especially here on the Ohio River.
Megabass just they don't make a bad product. And I think those SV3s, I think they actually have that longer tail as well. I've got a couple of those. Those are really good looking baits.
Yeah, so Megabass doesn't miss, that's for sure. It's almost getting time to that the jerkbait season. So we talked about that there a couple weeks ago. But guys, we're headed down to Dale Hollow this weekend, trying to catch some fish and win the Casting for Kids Classic. Which, again, if you just now joined us, we're headed down there to fish the Casting for Kids Classic this weekend, Dale Hollow. We did not qualify for it. Just want to let you know that we are paying our way just like anybody else. But I don't know this is true. He may have already had it filled up or not. But if not, you might get a hold of Chris Ferguson. I think he said he had 10 spots left, according to yesterday or the day before. So you might get a hold of him. I think he's talking about having 60 boats, I believe, total, if possible. It's not a free tournament. There is an entry fee. So if you're interested or around Dale Hollow and you want to go make a difference with Casting for Kids, get a hold of Chris Ferguson. He might be able to let you get in. What's up, Aaron Strickland? What's up, buddy? Headed down to Dale Hollow here in a second, or here in a couple days. Stuart, leaving Thursday morning. That's awesome, man. We'll see you down there. Sounds to me like you're going to get a little bit more time on the water than JR and I. We're going to go on the swing for the fences, and if we catch them, we catch them. If not, we don't. We're going to spend Saturday and Sunday or half a Sunday on the lake and see what we can fish and what we can catch. We'll
have fun on the water. That's what matters.
When we go, was that November or was that February this past year we went? March?
I think it was March. Yeah. I remember we caught some on that triple threat from the Little Rock. Or not Little Rock. Blue Rock.
Yeah. So, but I caught the biggest smallmouth of that trip on a jerkbait, and it wasn't even a keeper. I mean, it was a solid 4-pounder, but it
I think it was like 20 inches or something.
Yeah. Dude, that's what I'm hearing, man. That is what I'm hearing, and that is not what I want to hear. I mean, I do have this, but not what I'm hoping that we're out there doing. Not what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're headed down to Dale Hollow. We're going to make a video based on what we do that weekend, no matter what. So you guys will be seeing that on the channel here soon. And with that being said, guys, unless you guys have anything else for us this evening, we are going to hop off here and see you next Tuesday. All right. It won't be tonight, man. I am going to bed right after this, but I'll give you a call tomorrow after work and see what's up. Oh no, Jack's back there. Is that Jack or is that the Headless Horseman? Can't tell.
I think there is a head there. I think.
Worm, congratulations this weekend, bud, showing them those dudes there at the river how to catch some absolute hammers. Don't know what you won, but I imagine it was probably several $1,000s. So congratulations again, man. Glad that I didn't fish because now I can say that you didn't beat me in that tournament. Beat everybody else, though. So congratulations, buddy. Anyway, spinner baits are coming out soon. Buzz baits are coming out soon if I can get those things done. Still working on the glide baits. Still working on a lot of different things. On Another Line live is going to get a lot more interesting over the winter months. We do have some more pros and things coming on throughout the winter months because, let's face it, not a whole lot for them to do, not a lot for us to do. But we're going to go to Dale Hollow this weekend and try to catch them. I don't imagine there's going to be a giant amount of people. $32,000 price tag or purse, and there's probably 50 boats. Like, anytime that I have the opportunity to cash a $30,000+ check, and that's through the whole, I figure it's like $10,000 for the first place, which is crazy. Anytime I have the ability to fish for 10 grand, and have only 50 boats in there, I'm doing it. So we will, we'll let you guys know how we do on the channel next week, and we'll see you guys next Tuesday live. So if you guys can, you know what to do. Get out there and lean on them. We'll see you next time on Another Line. See y'all.